Hello, my name is Geeraldinne Espinosa and with my partner Ángela Bernal are going to talk about the book A Clockwork Orange. Anthony Burgess was born in Manchester in 1917. In 1918, his mother and sister died in an influential pandemic and he grew up with his father and a stepmother. In 1940, Burgess graduated from the University of Manchester with a degree in English literature. Thereafter, he started his service in British Royal Army Medical Corps and Army Educational Corps during World War II. His service lasted until 1946 and brought him to Gibraltar as a teacher. Following the war, Burgess' work in the British colonial service led him to Southeast Asia to teach at Malay College, and in this time he published his first novel. However, in 1959, Burgess was struck by debilitating illness that was incorrectly identified as a terminal brain tumor. This diagnosis inspired Burgess to return to England and write extensively in order to support his family after he died. Between 1959 and 1962, Burgess wrote several novels, among them A Clockwork Orange. In 1968, his first wife, Lynn, died, and he remarried later that year and stayed in several European countries. Though once his terminal diagnosis appeared to be mistakes, Burgess' products are extensively his oeuvre ranging from novels and non-fiction to symphonies, ballets, and musicals. Other great Burgess works include his 1980 novels Air Powers. In November 1993, Burgess died in London at the age of 76. A Clockwork Orange concerned with a true revolution government, coupled with its use of Slavic-influenced slang, shows of clear preoccupation with Cold War politics and their intensifying rivalry between the Soviet Union and Western democracies. 1962, the year of the book publication, saw the Cuban Missile Crisis, in which the United States and the Soviet Union faced off in a tense confrontation that threatened worldwide nuclear warfare. He is Alex, the 15-year-old narrator and protagonist. Alex is the vicious leader of a gang of criminals who occasionally go to school by day and rape and pill by night. He loves classical music and feels that violence and music provide him with similar kinds of artistic pleasure. Alex believes that committing to ideals wherever those ideals may be is of paramount importance, and he disdains people who seem to him to be living without purpose. Despite Alex's brutality and his natural leadership potential, Alex remains quite naive and immature, which allows him to be manipulated by both the government and F. Alexander's political dissident. He is F. Alexander, a writer and political dissident. F. Alexander's wife dies as a result of being raped by Alex's gang. After his wife dies, he devotes his life to unseating the government that he holds partially responsible for his wife's death. He is committed to the ideal of liberty, even at the expense of individual. F. Alexander is a character for Alex, the protagonist, as well as a father figure to him. He is the Minister of the Interior, a high-ranking government official who selects Alex as a first candidate for Lubodikot's technique. The minister is a sharp, desert, important-looking glutton man. His primary concern is the welfare of the state, and his attitude is entirely pragmatic. He is deemed a physical imposter with mentally deficient drugs in Alex's first gang. After Alex hits Dean for behaving broke-shy, he and the rest of the drugs betray Alex. Years later, Dean becomes a policeman and, with his partner Bill Boy, injures a patient and then rapes Alex.
Hello, my name is Ángela Bernal. I am going to talk about A Clockwork Orange. That book was written in 1962 by Anthony Burgers. The protagonist of the book is Alex, a 15-year-old boy who narrates in a teenage slang called Natsat, which incorporates elements of Russian and Cockney English. Alex leads a small gang of teenage criminals through the streets, robbing and beating men and raping women. Alex and his friends spend the rest of their time at the Korova Milk Bar, an establishment that serves milk with drugs. The story begins when Alex and his friends leave the bar. They go on a crime spree that involves mugging, robbing, a gang fight, auto theft, breaking and entering, and rape. The last of these crimes is particularly brutal. One night, Alex is accused of murder by attacking a person. He befriends the prison chaplain. One day, after fighting with and killing a cellmate, the state that is in the elections decides to do an experiment with Alex, the Ludovico's technique. That is a form of brainwashing that incorporates associative language. After being injected with a substance that makes him dreadfully sick, the doctors forced Alex to see violent movies. In this way, he comes to associate violence with nausea and headache. This process takes 2 weeks to complete, as the thought of violence has the power to make Alex ill. As a consequence of the treatment, Alex can no longer classical music, which he has always associated with violence. After this, he doesn't have a place to stay, so Alex wanders to a nearby cottage, knocks the door, begging for help. The man living there lets him in, gives him food and a room for the night. Alex recognized him from 2 years ago. He was one of his victims. This man is F. Alexander. He is a political dissident. When he hears Alex's story, he thinks he can use him to incite public outrage against the state. So Alexander locks Alex with classical music through the walls, hoping that Alex will hurt himself and the government be blamed. Later in the hospital, the state doctors undo the Ludovico's technique and restore Alex's old vicious self. He engages in the same behavior that he had at the beginning of this story. But he soon begins tired of the life of violence, so Alex decides that he wants another way to life, as he sees that one of his old friends has an organized life. His final thoughts are about his future life.
Set in a dismal dystopia, England in the not-so-distant future, we find places like the Corona Milk Bar, an establishment that separates milk leads with drugs, and a bar called the Duke of New York, the countryside and the prison that are the most important places.
Now I'm going to talk about some symbols in the book. The first is the milk. The milk symbolizes the immaturity and passivity of the people who eventually drink it at the milk bar. The drinking of milk suggests the infantilization and subsequent helplessness of the state citizens. By virtue of its whiteness and homogenization, milk also symbolizes uniformity among the teenagers who drink it. The fact that the milk is laced with drugs is ironic, suggesting that these youths are wholesome and innocent than adults, not more. The other are images of darkness, night, and the moon. These things are associated with Alex's domain. and thus represent peace and security to him. Darkness represents the privacy and solitude necessary for an individual will to exist and make choices freely. Dendron, Velocet, and Syntemex refer to hallucinogens. These three drugs symbolize neutrality or thickness. The people in the novel who use them become inhuman while experiencing the effects of them, receding from the reality around them. And the last symbol is lightness and day. Daytime and sunlight represent danger for Alex. In part 1, Alex notes that there are several policemen out patrolling during the day, figures of repression. Lightness represents the demystification of the individual. The doctors with their white jackets continue the trend of brightness being associated with threat and menace. This question appears several times in the book. Alex first asks this question to himself and his friends as they plan ahead for a night of crime. Throughout part 1, Alex is confronted with a choice between being good or being evil. At this point, the question is an authentic one, as both options represent equally valid alternatives. In other part of the book, the government is now the only entity that can authentically ask the question. The novel claims that, without the power to choose one's own path of action, any human behavior remains meaningless. Who does God want? Does God want goodness? Is a man who chooses the bad perhaps in some way better than a man who has the good imposed upon him? This quotation comes from the chaplain and articulates a Christian perspective on the subject of free will. The chaplain refers here to the reclamation treatment that Alex will undergo, a psychologically imposed behavioral modification that would render Alex incapable of performing evil deeds. The chaplain ascertains that good acts are morally valueless if performed without free will. He thus doubts the moral worth of Ludovico's technique and wonders if forced benevolence is in fact more evil than sin itself. This belief presupposes a free individual will that can both sin and commit good acts. Ludovico's technique, however, eliminates the essence of humanity by not allowing for free will, which by necessity includes the option to be bad. And nor would he be able to stop his own son brothers, and so it would eat on to like the end of the world, round and round and round. Like some bulgy gigantic, like Shelovic, like old Bog himself, turning and turning and turning a bony granchy orange in his gigantic rookers. Alex is certain that his future son will follow in his footsteps and pay no mind to well-intentioned parental lessons, and that his son's son will do the same. To Alex, these patterns of life are inevitable, and thus he sees his own mischief as a natural and necessary part of youth, and as such a necessary part of growing up, having made some sense of his odious behavior by contextualizing within a larger progress toward maturity. Alex realizes that he has had to sacrifice for this understanding. Alex considers his own suffering sufficient to move forward with his life.
Full title: A Clockwork Orange. Author: John Anthony Burgess Wilson. Genre: dystopia, philosophical novel, social satire, and black comedy. Language: English. Time and place: written between 1958 and 1961 in England. Date of first publication: 1962. Publisher: Norton and Company. Narrator: Alex narrates A Clockwork Orange immediately after the events of the novel. Points of view: the narrator speaks in the first person subjunctive, describing only what he says, her early things and experience.
Now I'm going to talk about the impact of this book. We liked the book. It is interesting to see how the protagonist is torn between good and evil. We realize that it is better for a person to freely choose the way of living. We were also struck by the essence of violence that the book tells, and that Alex and his friends enjoyed the crimes they committed. We think that Alex was violent for free choice, and that the state was wrong with the technique because Alex had many consequences. It is better that a person can take his own decisions freely. Thank you.